Welcome to Two Deep Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast brought to you by Jack and Coke. I'm your host, PB, and I've got Sam Jesse here. Sam, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. Feels like we are fully in the holiday season now. We got two Christmas beers. Well, actually, serendipitously, we have one Christmas beer to
That's
review
right.
tonight.
Yeah, we both happen to pick the same beer out of the store and out of the fridge, which is kind of fun because I said to Sam back in the first couple seasons of this, when Rob and I were recording in person, we would just share six packs and we'd, review the same beer. So tonight we're going to do a throwback to that and review the same beer. And then Sam might grab an additional beer. I'm not
I
sure.
might. We might. We'll see how the night progresses.
Well, this is our last regular season recap of the year. We're going to be recapping UVA because Virginia Tech beat UVA 37-17. However, we gave a pretty full recap on Monday with Pat Finn. So we'll do a couple more things on it, touch on some overall thoughts, big picture stuff. But the biggest thing we're going to do today is play you the voicemails from the UVA game because we did not do that on Monday, and they were pretty solid. Let's start with let's start with the cheers. We need a cheers, Sam.
My cheers is to, I think this is like last week is the ambitious Christmas season, right? People start putting their decorations up usually the day after Thanksgiving. This is like full on Christmas mode. Everyone's lights are up. Christmas movies are on. Mariah Carey blasting. So a cheers to Christmas time. Or if you don't celebrate Christmas, a cheers to Hanukkah time or just the holiday season, whatever you celebrate. Just
cheers. Yeah, that's right.
As long as you're celebrating something.
That is a very interesting beer.
We'll talk about it.
It's a little bit on the sweet side, a little bit of a dessert action going on, but I'm not hating it right now. There was some good notes here. Actually, on the note of Christmas, holidays, do you watch those shitty movies they put on Hallmark or Netflix?
Okay. No, my mom does.
Okay.
I have a lot of friends who do. I don't. However, one of the most fun Christmas parties I've ever been to was we watched the Casey Musgraves Christmas special when that first came out, which is hilarious and it's awesome. The songs are great. And then we watched a Night to Remember starring Vanessa Hudgens from High School Musical. Nice. And there's a drinking game associated with it, and it is intense.
That sounds amazing. That does sound very fun.
Yeah, when they repeat the same phrases for like 2 hours, you can get pretty
I do find it fun to like watch those and just rip into them the whole time with like a good friend or your wife or something like that. Like
they lean into it a little bit.
Yeah, they do,
which is sure part of the fun.
And I understand that they're mindless, right? They're just like, I want to get in the Christmas spirit. I want to put on a movie about a girl that goes to her hometown and falls in love with the local painter. Like that's what they want.
Did you know that there is a Bachelorette style reality TV show about the next Hallmark Christmas star? And it's a bunch of male actors who all look exactly like Hallmark movie Christmas stars.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it looks incredibly entertaining.
The acting chops bar is very low for those movies, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right, news and notes, Sam. We got a bunch of all ACC guys. APR makes first team, very well deserved. Peebles as well. Tootin on second team, Delane, Lane, and Moore on third team. And then we had a couple honorable mentions in Chaplin, Moore, Strong. And Love. And I do think, like, if you list those guys off, Strong and Love were the ones that got the most screwed.
Yeah. If you watched ACC football this year and you don't think Dorian Strong is one of the top 6 corners, you're crazy. Right. You're absolutely crazy. So I think he was kind of a product of people not throwing to him a lot. But he had a tremendous season. He's going to get drafted pretty high. I thought John Love had a good season. Probably he didn't have the big kicks this season. And I think that's one thing that as a kicker, you kind of need those game winners or those like multiple big 50-yarders in clutch situations, stuff like that. So he didn't get those. But I think really good for Tech to be represented. A few years ago, Tech was not even sniffing second team all ACC. So
that's very true. And that's a bunch of guys that
Yeah.
that made the various teams, and you could have had more. And Chaplin had a pretty strong season and improved as he went through there as well. So same with Caden Moore. All right, let's move to CFB Monday. I said we did a full recap with Pat. Please check that out. Pick'em leaders, Sean D08. He won. The pick'em is over. There are no championship game picks. Congrats, Sean D08, 79 and 61. Shout out to Fitted Jones though, because he did finish 73 and 47, missing
That's
a week.
crazy.
That's a very good percentage. So shout out to you, Fitted Jones. Well done. But Sean, congrats. I finished 11th at 70 and 60. Kev Smith and Hookie Hustler were 2 and 3. They were solid all season long. So congrats to everyone who participated. We appreciate you. I've got one more week in my pick'em this upcoming week, Sam. We got picking all 8 or 9 games, however many it is, and
I'm throwing bets on every game. Yeah, there's no question.
I'm going to be hitting up the chat a little bit. The locks guys, just chatting a little bit about, because I don't want to get too in my head about this, but I'm tied for first, and there's a couple $1,000s on the line, and I don't want to mess it up. So we'll group think a couple of them, but we just got a text from Rich Luttenberger that he's going to go to the Army and Tulane game tomorrow night.
Sick.
And I had kind of like planted that seed as a joke on our one thread, because I was like considering it. It's going to be like 20-degree wind chill, and it's 3 hours from my house. Rich lives pretty close.
Yeah, I really want to go to a game once they finish the stadium expansion. I think it's going to look really cool. So I think next year they should be done. So that's definitely a bucket list stadium, though, for a lot of college football fans.
And they're not going to host too many championship games. And I was kind of like, after Rich was like, well, were you serious? I'm like, nah, I'm going to bow out. It's too far. It's too cold. He's like, well, now you got me thinking about it. I was like, it won't happen too often, Rich. You should probably go.
Yeah, it should be a really good game.
Yeah. All right. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the Sons of Saturday feed. We're going to get into National Signing Day first before we do Portal and UVA. Pat just interviewed Matei C. from 247 yesterday. It was a quick little interview just on the class. Check that out. That's on the YouTube page, but it's also on the Sons of Saturday feed in the podcast feed. Signing Day stream that they do every year with the draft is really fun. I know we've done it a couple years in a row, but I think the kids really like it. Like the recruits really like it. And for me as a fan, like I really enjoy it. And I think even though like it may be a team stream, there's a lot of moving pieces to that. Getting all those families on the camera and then going to Mitch Gerber and doing the highlights and getting a secondary interview on different cameras. That's a lot of work and a lot of effort. And it was cool that it was all live on YouTube this year.
Yeah, really, really cool. I think it's awesome, the more kind of creative broadcasting that they do internally, because look, we've seen with ACC Network in the past, there is kind of a ceiling to the production that you're going to get from ACC Network, especially with all of the ACC teams now. You're not going to get as much individual coverage. So anything that you can put out that is Virginia Tech centric, you have to do it. And so I think it was a really awesome job by them. The pictures look awesome. And yeah, most importantly, I think the recruits really, really enjoy it, and their families enjoy it. They feel wanted, and they feel like this is a big boy football program with a ton of investment. And to see that on signing day is probably a really nice feeling for those recruits to know that they made the right decision.
You're seeing all the coaches together and their camaraderie. They're kind of busting each other's chops, or like, you didn't want to come to me before, but when I brought him to town, you committed. Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. You get to see the families, like Mr. Overton, and his interview was really good. You're seeing people's uncles. They had one of the sisters was in Spain. It's just really cool. And they all get to talk. Hey, Mom, do you have anything to say? Dad, do you have anything to say? You had the Irmo head coach, I'm blanking right now, who's the father of one of our recruits, and he was talking really highly of Tyler Bowen. And I think was that AJ Brand's dad?
Yeah, might have been.
Yeah. But it's just such a cool inside baseball kind of look at everything for a few hours on National Signing Day, when you really know nothing about these kids other than maybe some huddle highlights and where they went to high school. You get to a little bit more personal side.
Yeah, and it's so hard nowadays in recruiting because guys are so like they're so commercialized almost as recruits at this point. Like there's a graphic coming out all the time. They go from top 16 to top 8 to top 4 to top 2.
Mhm.
And they flip 4 or 5 times. You don't really get to know the person. You just kind of see the graphics or a few highlights. So to kind of see a face-to-face in a non-football setting, I think is really cool for the fans.
Definitely. So VT signed 19 players. We had the 40th best class in the country on the 247 composite rankings. If you go to the average recruiting ranking, which a lot of people are stressing because we haven't had the biggest classes the last 2 years, we are in the mid 30s in terms of average rating per recruit, which was 87.25. Last year, I think we were over 88 for sure, but that was our highest average ever last year in terms of the modern recruiting rankings. This, although a little bit lower, was still very, very good. And I thought, Sam, with the big news that came out in the middle of the day, that it was a huge, huge day for Virginia Tech to sign this class, and the addition of Deloach was enormous.
Yeah, absolutely huge. That's one of this was always a good class because of where the average rating was, but not a lot of big ticket guys. And so
Mhm.
to like add another big ticket guy in there in Deloach, and he's a guy from 757 guy from Chesapeake, goes to one of the best football program high schools in the country in Oscar Smith, defensive guy. Like it ticked every box for a guy that you probably need one or two of these guys in every single signing class. And to get one of those guys, I think is just really, really good for Virginia Tech because you bring him in, and then you have a guy like Micah Matthews from Nova who you bring in as well, and you have a guy like Overton who's been getting a lot of hype who's also from Nova. You're starting
Yeah.
to hit. Brent probably talked about the footprint, and Richmond, Nova, Virginia Beach, 757. Like those are the areas that you have to be able to go in and get the top 2 or 3 players from those areas.
And all of the guys were from the footprint except for one. The only guy that wasn't was the quarterback, and that's pretty normal. And it's kind of funny, Sam. I was thinking about this today. Keldon Ryan, the quarterback I'm referring to, is from Texas. Our previous starting quarterback, Kyron Jones, is from Texas. You go back to Gerard Evans, Texas, and Michael Brewer is from Texas. So if you go the last 11 seasons, our starter has been from Texas 5 of those 11 seasons. That's kind of funny when you
I
think
mean,
about it.
just play the numbers game, I guess. How many high school football quarterbacks are there from Texas compared to every other state? There's a whole
Right.
lot. A lot of them are really good. So it kind of makes sense.
They
It's a
throw the
little,
ball around a lot down there, man.
yeah. I mean, I don't really know of that many quarterback recruits from the state of Virginia that have been that highly touted recently. Like
No, there haven't
I don't
there
know
haven't been
of
a
many.
ton.
So you kind of have had to go out of your footprint because also like Braxton Burmeister, California, Hendon Hooker, North Carolina, Quincy
Mhm.
Patterson, Illinois, like really haven't been a lot of guys anywhere. Uh, Colin Schlee is technically from Maryland, so I guess that counts, kind
Local,
of.
yeah. The
Mhm,
the thing with I'm losing it right as I'm saying it. I'm losing my thought there. But yes, the Deloach flip was enormous, and the last point I wanted to say on that was just that never happens to Virginia Tech. We kind of said this on our stream last night when we were watching the Vandy game because naturally with the way that game went, and we didn't really touch on basketball in our news and notes, but the team is
yeah.
struggling. They are off
Mhm,
to their worst start
mhm.
since the mid '80s, so it's been rough. So we kind of we had Billy Ray on, Ed came on at the end, and we were talking football and everything else. But getting a 4-star on signing day that we were not expecting at all, like that
Mhm.
just it doesn't happen. Even sometimes we are expecting it and it doesn't happen. And this time that no one was even thinking of it. If it didn't happen, we'd be like, oh, okay, pretty good class. That happens and it takes it up just a big notch to add a 4-star on signing day.
Yeah, really, really big. And looking at I have 247 pulled up right now, and if you look at the ACC, Virginia Tech isn't in the top echelon of recruiting, but they never really have been. But you look at their average recruiting ranking, and it's better than a lot of the teams that are ranked quote unquote ahead of them, right? And it's better than Duke, it's better than Syracuse, it's better than
Mhm.
SMU, it's better than NC State, it's better than Stanford, better
We're
than Pitt. Like,
we're sixth in the ACC in average, Sam.
mhm.
But one of the teams that ahead of us is ahead of us is UNC, and they have
Mhm.
9 commits. So in reality, for a team that has more than 15 commits or like a decent sized class, we have almost 20. We're 5th in the ACC.
Yeah, UNC right now is a total wild card with recruiting. I think that's fair to say. But to out recruit programs like NC State and Louisville, and honestly, right now with Fran Brown at Syracuse, to out recruit those,
They have so many commits. Do you see what they have?
yeah, I'm gonna pull up.
It's like
24
34.
34 commits.
I didn't know you could sign that many.
So I don't know about that. So it used to be like 25.
Yeah, they
But
got
I
rid. I
think
know
it
they
went
changed the
up to
rules.
I think it's
Yeah.
35.
Okay. Well, then there you go.
But
But it's
it's
funny because if you look
crazy.
at that, Sam, and this is what's really funny, they have 34 commits, 1 4-star. As far
Yep.
as last I checked, UNC
Yep.
9 commits, 2 4-stars.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's what's
Yeah.
pretty funny. It's hard. It's not easy to. You can be Fran Brown. You can have a great season. It's still not easy to recruit to upstate New York.
Yeah. And I think just to put kind of a bow on it, nice Christmas bow. We'll keep the theme going.
Mm-hmm.
The level of talent Virginia Tech is bringing in is better than most of Virginia Tech's competition that they're going to play on a year by year basis. However, I think we can all agree it's maybe not at the level that it needs to be in order to consistently compete for an ACC championship against programs like uh, Clemson and Miami and Florida State, who I know they had a terrible year, but they just signed 10 4-stars.
Right. They're
Something
going
I
to be
found,
back. I mean,
yeah, they're going to be back. Something I found interesting though, as of early signing day, there are 0 5-stars committed to an ACC program. Not even Miami has one.
I thought FSU had one. I guess not. Um,
Mhm.
Damn. That I mean, the ACC's taking it on the chin left and right. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
With the way the SEC ACC challenge has gone and some of the signing day stuff, because even with the class that Miami's bringing in, I think the highest ranked ACC team is like 14th in the country in terms of the class rankings.
Mhm.
So I did want to also mention we had the Deloach edition, but we also had Jordan Krim added to the mix recently as well. It wasn't on signing day, but it was within the last week or so. He is the lowest ranked signee in the composite, but I expect that to change. If you look at the offers he has, Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, UCF, Tulane, Vandy, Houston, JMU, and Liberty. Like, maybe you want to knock those other ones back, but like that was a lot of power schools that I
Mhm.
just named. I
Yep.
expect his ranking to move up, and he is much higher on 247's in-house rankings than he is in the composite. So they're up on him, but maybe some of the other services are sleeping on Jordan Krim, or JoJo as they like to call him, a little bit. 3 4-stars in the class overall in the composite. Snook Peterkin, he's a wide receiver. Micah Matthews, wide receiver, and cornerback Deloach. If you go to the in-house rankings, it's Snook, Deloach, and Overton. Because Overton recently got a bump along with a bunch of other guys. And that's the other main point I want to stress. No, the overall average recruiting ranking wasn't as high as it was a year ago. And this class being 40th in the country isn't as high. And I know it's a little bit smaller, but 10 of the guys in the class are 88s or above on 247. Just 2
Mhm.
years ago, we had 5.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, in 2022. So 3 cycles ago, we had 5 guys who were 88s and above. In this, we have 10 guys who are 88s and above. That's a lot more high end talent.
Yeah, and if you look at, some of the guys who are right below that kind of 88 cutoff, and 88 is, if you don't follow recruiting too much, to be honest, I kind of have stopped following it as closely as I used to, but 88 is kind of 247's like line of demarcation for like certified power four starter at some
Mm-hmm.
point. Like above 88, you're looking at a really high level recruit. So, but you look at the guys who are right below that, like Carter Stallard. He's a guy from Christiansburg. He's listed at 6'7.5", 315 pounds, and he looks every bit of that. I remember
He's
last
gigantic.
season, Billy Ray and I were sitting and we saw him on the sidelines. And I said, that's the biggest player on the sidelines right now for either team. He was massive. You have guys like Brennan Johnson, Highland Springs guy. Give me all of the Highland Springs guys.
Mm-hmm.
Keldon Ryan, he's the quarterback from DeSoto, Texas. big time program. A lot of people really like his film and feel like Tech kind of got one with him.
People are really high on Ryan. And what do you think about bringing in 2 quarterbacks in one class?
I think you need to. Just the attrition you get at that position year in and year out. I think you need to. I think you saw this year too how depth at that position is such a weapon. I mean, Virginia Tech, you know, should have won a road game against Syracuse with their backup quarterback, and then they ended up beating their rival with their third string quarterback. So having depth at that position is certainly more of a luxury now than it used to be, but it's probably even more important now than it used to be, especially with how much we run quarterbacks at Virginia Tech.
Your point on Stollard is something I did want to mention because Pry kept calling him 6'8", 330 or whatever, or
He
320.
He is like a massive human being.
Can he play in the post? Because the basketball team could use a 6'8" dude.
I tell you what, I'm not. I don't know. How do you defend 6'8", 315? Goodness gracious.
DJ Burns coming through, man.
I know.
But yeah, so that was
really
5 more
prospect,
87s on top of the 10 88s. And that's what Sam's talking about with, I would say if you're an 88, you're essentially a 3.5 star. And maybe even 3.75, because you are right under the 4-star moniker. So somewhere between 3.5 and 4 is where those 88s are coming in. And the 87s aren't too far behind. I know, and this is all a little bit silly. The good thing for Tech fans is our coaches have shown an ability to hit on some of their evals. Like over the past couple years, our staff has done well getting guys who might have not been as highly recruited as other guys, but they play really big.
11 players in the top 1,000. Pete, I know you're big about that.
I am, yes.
So 11 in the top 1,000 is really good for early signing day, and there's still more to come. Stay tuned.
Yeah. 12 of the 19 are from Virginia. Only 1 kid from outside the footprint, as I mentioned, but 12 from Virginia. 6 guys on the front 7 on defense and another 4 DBs. And there's a couple athletes, which I think are probably both going to end up on offense, but 6 in the front 7 is necessary on defense, especially what we're losing in the portal, which we'll talk about. I did want to say also Brand, his father is Aaron Brand, Halifax County High School legend, and he is the head coach of Irmo High School down where AJ goes to school. But that's the other quarterback besides Kelton Ryan. And then 11 early enrollees out of these huge. 19. That's a huge. Lot of players enrolling early.
Yeah. Brent Pry has done a good job of that since being here, getting guys into campus early, getting them moving. Of all of these guys, though, it sounds like Overton, the running back, is the guy who can contribute day one. Like
seems that way.
He is coming in with a lot of hype. He's coming in as a guy who has performed at the highest level of Virginia high school football. And I'll tell you, Pete, we talk a lot about Tech kind of needing to play money ball with the NIL game. To be able to just bring in a freshman running back, not have to go out into the portal to get another guy, that could be really big because that's money you could spend, on the offensive line, or maybe we need another guy on the defensive line, stuff like that. So that could be a really big win that kind of cascades to other parts of the roster.
So what do you think about if your running back room was Prelo, Overton, Coney, and Tyler Mason? We probably still need another guy.
You might. I mean, you don't know what kind of jumps are guys like Mason and Prelu and Coney going to make in the weight room? What kind of, because Coney's a guy who
I'm not missing one, right? There's not a 5th one out there for next year, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. Malachi Thomas
he could come back. I think. If he got a medical, he could come back.
So I think you're looking at those guys.
That's it.
You would have to see. I could very well see Virginia Tech doing a post-spring running back transfer if somebody lands. There are some pretty good running backs in the transfer portal right now. So we'll see what Virginia Tech does. And there will be more for sure.
If this year was any indication, we need 5. I mean, 5 is probably as low as you can go for running back, honestly. And we had a bunch of injuries at the position this year.
I will also say, Pete, at some point, the guys you recruit have to be able to play. You can't. I know. I think a lot of programs are going to fall into this fallacy of they lose a star and they have to get a star in the portal, and then guys that they spent time recruiting and developing and are taking up a roster spot and taking up reps never see the field.
Yeah.
And
I think,
so,
to your point, I think Overton's going to see the field.
oh
I
yeah,
think
oh
he's going
yeah,
to see the field. Other guys that I think could be impact year one, I think Clatterbach could get his nose in there.
yeah.
I mean, you know how I feel about the linebacker play. We bring in Brumfield last year, kind of wasn't playing by the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how that position is going to shake out, who will jump in the portal, who won't. But if we've got a middle linebacker who knows how to play middle linebacker
Mm-hmm.
and he's big, which he is, maybe he would contribute. Maybe he'd be on, the 2 deep next year. Drink. Snook could, however, we've got some depth at wide receiver. I don't know who. It's all dependent on the portal, but he has got the talent and skill
Mm-hmm.
to play as a true freshman. And
Absolutely.
then Robinson in the safety core. This is something I think Matei said with Pat. Like, we've had a bunch of safeties who have played early in their career and done well. We've had 2 in a
Mm-hmm.
row the last 2 years. Why not
Yep.
Robinson too?
Yeah, and that's also a position that Tech has had some injury issues. We'll see what happens with Jalen Stroman this offseason, but you need depth at that position as well, because you also need to rotate some of those guys throughout the game. You don't want tired legs playing center field for you.
The possibility of Deloach, it's there, but I'm looking at the depth chart. You got Lovett, who we expect to be a starter, Braylon Johnson, who we expect to be back and compete for starting snaps, Penix, Thomas Williams, Christian Williams. There's a bunch of names that guys that have already
Mhm.
been in the program a couple years. So
Yep.
maybe we won't need them. Maybe we will. We'll find out. All right, that's it for National Signing Day. Did you have anything else?
No, I think overall, considering how this season went, Pete, that's about as best of a signing day as you could ask for. Maybe
Yeah,
even a little better.
I agree, because we didn't
Yeah.
get any decommits, which I
Yeah.
was a little bit worried about.
I mean, we've been decommit you for about a decade now, dude. I'll tell you. So not getting a major decommit, oh, that felt good.
Not only not a decommit, but an addition of a 4-star. So it was an objectively great day on
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a moment to talk about our sponsor. 2 Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Jack and Coke. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke. The #1 cocktail in the world is now available in a can. Yes, it's true. Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey and Coca-Cola, or Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, or Cherry Coke, are now available in a can at your local grocery and convenience stores. 2 legends, 1 can, Jack and Coke, ready to drink. And as always, when you're drinking, please drink responsibly. Do you want to do our beer review now, or do you want to wait till after Portal chatter?
Let's do it now. We
Okay.
did the drink responsibly. Now I need
Yeah.
to know what you're drinking.
We're both drinking the same thing. So
Yes.
do you want me to
So
go first, or should you go first, since you've had a
I'll
chance to?
introduce it and
Okay.
you go. Okay, so it is the Chestnut Praline Imperial Ale from Southern Tier Brewing Company. This is a specialty release. It is, as I said, an Imperial Ale, 8.6% alcohol by volume. Pretty cool festive can. It's got the like Christmas script font on it. The hollies. Chestnut praline is one of my favorite holiday flavors of things. So I was really excited to try this. What do you think, Pete?
It's definitely, like, you open it up and the odor, the smell of it it's just smacks you. Like, it smells like a
It
Christmas cookie.
it beats you in the face with Christmas. It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
And so I was very excited to take my first sip, and it is sweet.
Mhm,
You get some of that chestnut, uh, like, nutty kind of flavor for sure,
mhm.
but then it's back ended with the sweetness. It's not my favorite dessert beer I've ever had.
I agree. It's way too much praline, not enough chestnut for me.
What
It
is a
is
praline? What?
praline is like it's like peanut or like some nut, and it is like caramel is poured over it.
Oh, that's what praline
It's
is? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So that's what that makes perfect sense, because it is kind of a caramely, nutty kind of flavor that is coming through.
But it's just too sweet. It's too
Yeah,
sweet.
it's too sweet, and you're right. If they had gone a little bit less on the sugar, I think I would like it more. I think it's muddying the waters for me.
Yeah, and you get a really sweet beers with like, if you're going for like a sour towards a goat or something like that, you can get that really sweet, but it has the tart, puckery sour to it that balances it out.
Yeah.
This is just it's just sugar. There's not a whole ton of body to it. Like, I don't know about you, but when I poured mine, like very little head,
Oh
not
yeah.
really.
It's like a
Yeah.
cream ale.
Yeah. And so there's not a lot of it's not very beery. There's not a lot of the yeasty malty to it.
Yeah,
It's
you could almost say it's like one of those Christmassy like mulled wines. Like
it is closer to, yeah, it is. That's exactly it. Um
I do enjoy Southern Tier in general, especially when they do their dessert
it's
stuff, whether it's the pumpkin or some of the other things. I texted a picture of this to my mom because she's a big fan of like anything peanut brittle like, and she enjoys the occasional sweet beer. So I was like, "Oh, I picked up this new Southern Tier," and she's like, "Nothing will beat the creme brulee," and she's right. Like the creme brulee Southern Tier is phenomenal if you're looking for a dessert beer.
this I like it a little bit more now that I'm a third of the way down my pint glass.
It grows on you.
It grows on you, but you gotta this is a one, like
It,
once a week beer. Like you're
it's a
not
weird beer. Like I don't think I'd buy it again.
no, I wouldn't. But it does, but for a specialty release, it's a little bit gimmicky.
If you
It
were
definitely
having
has a
a
high alcohol volume.
Yeah, if you're having a Christmas like beer tasting, I would include
Oh yeah.
it for
Yeah.
fun. Like I think a shot of it or just a couple sips of it might go better than drinking an entire beer of it.
Yep, I agree. This would actually be a really good one if you're kind of creating flights for people at a party and stuff like that. It
For
would
sure.
actually be a really good one to include. But as a full bottle, not not for me.
Great minds think alike though, Sam, with the beer choice. So that'll do it for the beer review. Let's go to the portal. Before we do UVA, I want to talk about a couple of these guys that are jumping in, and that's Malachi Madison, Curtis Perry, and Ish Finlater. The three defensive linemen are all entering the portal. In total, Sam, if you go through APR, Penne, Nelson, McCray, Fuga, we're losing 9 guys on the defensive line. That is a lot of players. So I think we had 20 on the year, the roster, and now we're losing 9 of them. And we're going to add a couple back in the recruiting class, but there's space for more. And I would have a feeling they're going to have to hit the portal for some more linemen.
Yeah. I think that's a position group that Virginia Tech stacked up purposefully to see who panned out, who wanted to put in the work, who performed well on the field. I think it's a sign that they do have a lot of faith in Kamari Copeland coming back and performing at a high level. He tore his tricep a few weeks into the season, but seems to be doing well with rehab post surgery. It feels like that is a position group that, as a program, they are going to foster the most competition. It just feels like the one that's where they have some of the best talent coming in, and that's where you're going to have the most attrition from there. I did want to play a little clip here from that was recorded by friend of the program, Colby Crawford.
The other portal addition of Curtis Perry now with the open week, maybe see some more around.
We're not talking about Curtis.
That's the JC Price clip talking about Curtis Perry, or not talking about Curtis Perry.
I have no idea how that sounded over the microphone playing from my phone.
I mean, I could hear it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there you go. These things happen, right? Some breakups are mutual.
Yeah. Curtis Perry, what's funny is we were hearing good stuff about him over summer. And that might have coincided with like, hey, you're not really in school yet. You know, there's not a whole lot on your plate other than working out and practicing and that kind of thing. And obviously he was the highest ranked recruit on our roster for the season. He came from Alabama, but there might've been a reason he transferred from Alabama. And as of a few weeks ago, JC Price didn't even want to talk about him. So he's no longer on the team.
At defensive tackle, Tech has, they'll have Gilliam back. They'll have Copeland back.
Emmett Laws
will be there.
Andrew Hanchuk,
yeah, Northeast Ohio.
Christian Evans is coming in, who was a pretty high recruit coming in. Stonebridge, is he Stonebridge?
I'm looking. Christian Evans, Stonebridge. That is correct.
Nice. So there are guys that I think we can rely on. They have liked Laws since he got there, but we're going to have to get a portal body. As
Agreed.
for other guys who have graduated and are gone, Tootin, I already mentioned APR. Strong, I have to assume Strong's gone. I think he could technically come back if he wanted to.
He should go.
Yeah, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
Jenkins,
Mhm.
Jennings, Felton, and Lane, Gosnell, Caden Moore, Parker Clements, Nelson, McCray, Fuga, Peebles, Penne, all those defensive linemen, Brumfield, Jalen Jones, and Colin Schlee. All those guys are nearly 100% gone. Delane could stay, but he's probably 100% gone.
Mhm.
That's 18 plus contributors. And depending on how you view the quarterback situation, that adds to that 18.
Yeah.
And so it's there's a couple guys who can come back, like Bob Schick could come back, Stroman can come back, Malachi maybe, but really we're losing a ton,
Mhm.
and we knew this going into
Yeah,
this.
yeah, and it's part of college athletics. Like you only have 4 years, and the whole COVID year thing is pretty much over. Like that's pretty much
Dorian
gone
Strong
now.
might be the last one that can use
Might
it.
be. So I I think it's just kind of the natural flow of college football. I think we knew going into last year, right, that like there was going to be a lot of roster turnover between 2024 and 2025. We'll see what it looks like. I mean, again, like I think the defensive line is a position they're going to lose a ton of guys. I think they also feel good about some of the guys that they have there, especially at the front line now. Wide receiver, they've been stacking up there. They probably feel good about where they're at wide receiver. Quarterback, we'll see. I mean, I think they know that they have options there. It's not going to be a completely barren team. And I also think, Pete, not to be negative Nancy, but there's a lot of guys there who are names who have been contributors and really good players, but Virginia Tech probably needs better players at some of these positions or more consistent players at some of these positions. So sometimes having that guy who's a fifth-year senior and just is kind of sharpied in day one to be a starter, sometimes getting them out of the program can be a blessing in disguise because it gives a little more breathing room for young talented guys who you've recruited to come in, or a portal guy to come in and start right away.
Yeah. So looking at that in totality and the guys we're losing and all this stuff, what are our biggest portal needs? Is it defensive line? Is it offensive line? Is it a skill position?
I would say defensive line for sure. Like if you could get a pass rusher, I think that's really important to replace APR. Not necessarily to replace a first team All ACC guy, but to help you out there. I think linebacker, you're going to lose Brumfield. You're getting Lawson and Keller back, but to be honest, you've had those guys in the program for a few years, and it doesn't seem like they've gotten to the level that you need them to get.
I mean, Keller has played a lot better.
He has played a lot better. I just think again, like that's a position where we haven't seen the performance that we need to see.
I agree. I
right?
agree. We should bring in some more. I just didn't want to like completely gloss over some of the guys. And who knows who will stay and who will go. But we need
corner and running back. I think are two positions where if you have a guy, you might want to go out and get him. I know Virginia Tech is pretty high up on a JUCO corner. That's one of the highest rated JUCO players in the country. I'll see if I can figure out what his name is real quick, but it feels like
recently, right?
Yes, he did. He did visit recently. So that feels like a position that they know that they need to go out and get somebody. If you're losing two guys to the NFL draft, you better go out and get somebody.
I'm not going to lie to you, Sam. It sounds crazy. Oh no.
Yeah.
Do you need to go get a rag or something?
Yeah, this would be a good time to do the roback read.
All right, I'll do a little bit on this position thing because I could be convinced to go grab a veteran wide receiver just because Tucker Holloway would be the oldest guy in that room. Aiden Green would be the second oldest, along with XTB, Takai Heath, and then Chance Fitzgerald. And then behind that, it's Chans and Keelan. So yes, there is depth there and there is talent there, but it might be the kind of thing where if you could bring in a vet that could supplement some of that younger talent, that would be good. I also don't know if all those guys in their second and third year of eligibility are going to be here. And so I think a wide receiver could be an area we'd want to get. And then running back, as Sam and I already said, that is an area that I could see them going grabbing a vet, getting a guy to come in. You're probably not going to find a guy as good as Tootin, but you never know. A lot of teams didn't know how good Tootin was when we went and got him. So those are my biggest portal needs: defensive line, offensive line, which maybe we didn't touch on, but I think you always need offensive linemen. It's just very hard to get offensive linemen in the portal. Running back, linebacker, and potentially a wide receiver. I think we're okay everywhere else. I know Sam did say CB, and sure, if you can get a good CB, that would be nice because, again, similar to wide receiver, a lot of talent there, but not all the guys are super experienced or super old. So that's what I'd say about that. We're going to talk about staff changes and will there be any and all that kind of stuff after we do UVA, or I should say at the end of UVA when we're talking big picture. Witt speaks tomorrow with Bill Roth, or at least we're going to get that release. I guess it's a sit-down interview kind of thing with Bill Roth. So friendly fire, I would think, in terms of the questioning. But I am curious as what he's going to say. It might have a lot to do with the House case with the NCAA. I don't know how much it's going to be about him or the state of our revenue sports, but I know that's what people are interested in if they could find something out about what's going on, because basketball stinks and football's pretty mediocre. So people are upset. So we'll see what Witt has to say tomorrow. And as Sam said, go ahead.
I'm back. Crisis somewhat averted.
You are wearing a white shirt too. Is there anything?
We'll deal with it later, Pete. Well, it's nothing is gonna die. It's okay. I think it'll be really interesting to hear if Virginia Tech actually has a plan that they are public with, or if they just say we're looking at it. Because there is a very big difference between, like, not to use a phrase, but like, there's a difference between having a plan and having concepts of a plan. And unfortunately for Virginia Tech athletics, it seems like that they have approached NIL with kind of concepts of a plan, and they want to be forward thinking and they want to be involved in it, and they want to be one of these big programs, but haven't necessarily been set up in the athletic department in order to do that. And I think it's very, very obvious right now, looking at the discrepancy in the payroll between football and men's basketball, as well as, kind of where that money was spent and why it was spent. I think there is a lot of work to do. And I think it's something where you probably need a team within the athletic department that is dedicated solely to NIL and to the revenue sharing, which will be a really big deal for the university. Tim Sands, in his board meeting call that was public, he mentioned how important it was to him to be a top level college athletics program, and that would take increased investment from the university, including raising the fiscal year 2025 budget up from 5% of the university budget up to 6%, which sounds really small, but it's a very, very big university budget, Virginia Tech. So that 1% is a whole lot of money. So I think it'll be really important for him to outline exactly how they're going to attack this, because what they're doing right now is clearly not working.
Nope, it's not. There's a lot of people in place in all various types of roles that are, to notice, I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but like, a lot of the stuff is new. And if you've been in college administration for 20, 30 years, you're not experienced with what's happening right now. Like you've been living it and trying to adapt, and we may need some people that have adapted better and are working in this day in and day out in NIL expertise and whatnot. But I'm curious as well, Sam, what will we get from Witt? It might be just a nothing burger, but it could be interesting too.
The fact that he is doing it solely with Bill Roth points to me more that it'll be very scripted, very choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the way to go for that first pass. But if it's not what people want to hear and it is just kind of a bunch of mumbo jumbo coach speak, then I think people are going to need some answers before they write that next investment check.
Yeah. I also don't expect him to be like, we're getting a new defensive coordinator. Like, that's not what's going to happen on this interview.
Please don't be stupid in your expectations of what you want him to say.
Yeah. All right. So 2 Deep Hokies Under the Influence is brought to you by Rhoback. You guys know Rhoback, the performance activewear designed for those who crave activity. It's Christmas time. You need gifts. I just bought 2 polos, one for my father-in-law, one for my brother-in-law. They're awesome. I got one of the 4-leaf clover. He's a good old Irishman, so I got him the 4-leaf clover one. And then my brother-in-law, I got him a Philly themed one because he's big into the Philly sports. So they're awesome. I'm very excited to give them to him. Use code 2DeepVT to get 20% off your Christmas gifts at Rhoback.com. They have all the tees, quarter zip, shorts, joggers you could ask for, as well as all of those various polos. And if you want to go click on that clearance tab, or some of the polos are discounted, there's some more affordable ones. Because I know people sometimes they complain about the price of Rhoback. It is expensive, but they do have some ones that are more affordable. They have all the state ones. So use code 2DVT and get 20% off your Rhoback order. If you've already done it, use a different email and get it again, because we know we're all trying to save money this time of year. Let's talk UVA, Sam.
Let's talk UVA.
We had a little conversation about the effect of this game last night and how it's amazing how one win over your rival, despite your rival sucking for the better part of 2 or 3 decades, still clouds your judgment in terms of how you view this season and the team and this upcoming week.
Yeah, it does. And I first off, I want to say this is not a Virginia Tech specific phenomenon, and this is not a new phenomenon at Virginia Tech. I think this started towards the end of the Beamer years when UVA started to really, really dip under Mike London, and Virginia Tech started to dip as well. It is really tough, I think, to not go into the holiday season after beating UVA on a high. I mean, I think we all repeat, like we got on here and said we feel a whole lot better. NC State is feeling the same way. Disappointing season. Haven't looked very good. They beat UNC in that game, and now they're feeling great. It's a college football thing. It happens all the time. I don't think that coaching decisions were going to be made solely based on that UVA result. I don't think it was a binary, if we lose, so-and-so is fired. I don't think you can go into that game with that. However, I think it can cloud the judgment when you do that year-end review that Brent Pry was talking about on signing day. I believe Andy Bitter, who's the first journalist, asked the question of, are you going to make any staff changes? And he said, look, we're always going to review that stuff. Beating UVA probably clouds that review process more than it does thumbs up, you keep your job versus thumbs down. Does that make sense? Like, that's kind of how I feel about it.
I mean,
right now.
I completely agree. Now, it is 1/12 of your season, and the result of the UVA game should factor into how you evaluate your coaches. It should. But I don't think beating UVA, we'll get to that in a second, but just having Pop Watson have a great game, which he did, and winning a game by 20 points at home for the first time in 6 years in front of fans against UVA, it makes everybody feel good. If you lose that game, the fan base is scorched earth. It does change things. It does change things.
Yeah, and I think it is, you talked about scorched earth. If you lose that game to UVA, it is like, I think you would have multiple people withholding their donations. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Winning that game, I think, keeps people locked in. And I texted Joel before this, like, it felt like a final straw game for a lot of diehard Hokies. It felt like if they don't win this game, I'm out. Like, it's done. They showed up and they won that game. I mean, credit to them, credit to Brent Pry, credit to that staff. It wasn't close. It was not close the entire game.
I mean, UVA, they suck. Like, they really suck. And I don't want to take credit away from Pop or our players, but like, they just did not have it from Jump Street. And This is 4 wins in a row. It's 19 of 20. I think I mistakenly said 24 of 26. I think it's 23 of 25. But regardless, it's a lot. It's a lot. We even made Calandria transfer, which is fantastic. I mean, he's transferring because he didn't get to play. And maybe he was going to transfer anyway, but it couldn't have helped. And you were there in the crowd. And I'll be darned if Hokie Nation just keep doing this.
It was maybe the best game of the year for fans.
That's
like
awesome.
I would think maybe Boston College was pretty hyped for Thursday night, but this was up there, man. It was loud.
Well, Pop got the start. We had Musket getting the start for UVA. We got up to a 10-3 lead, and right before the half, we had the long pass to Lane, 20-3 at the half. In the second half, I mean, I imagine no one in the stands was ever fearful of losing, even when they cut it to 13. But Tootin had the run where he broke the tackle and then ran for the long touchdown. Absolutely awesome. It crushed their spirit. It basically ended the game. 37-17, Hokies win. Let me play the voicemail so people can get an idea of how people were feeling on game night.
Brent Pry used all 3 timeouts to get the ball back at the end of the half. And then we marched down the field well enough to get 3 points. I felt like a proud father.
Halftime update from Coach Holmes. Defense came to play. Pop Watson looks very Tyrod-esque when he came in as a true freshman in 2007.
In the words of Brooks and Dunn, I am a brand new man. Got Mom here. Gotta give credit to Mom. She went through the 28-degree weather and did not complain at all. She loves her Hokies just as much as her son. Right, Mom?
Right.
APR is that dude. 37-17. Hokies win by 20. Pop Watson still looks like a young Tyrod Taylor. The defense came to play. Overall, great game. Always great to beat the Wahoos.
First time, long time. Gotta say, as disappointing and upsetting as this season was at some points, it is always fun to absolutely whoop UVA's ass, no matter the circumstances.
It's 11:35 p.m. and UVA still sucks! Go Hokies! Woo! Go Pop!
Still freezing here. You looked quite warm watching it at home, but stuck it out in the tundra with a big Hokies win. Still rushed the field though. Don't think it was that big of a win, but beating the Hoos is always fun.
Facial Tootin was great. Pop Watson, some of the best long balls that we have seen all year.
Pop Watson is the truth. Chiron Drones can hit the portal or grab some pine, baby. Pop Watson looks like he is the future at some point. I don't know next year or not, but definitely the future if he stays.
I think the highlight for me, though, was the Pop Watson celebrations. They were creative. They were fun. They were consistent. Overall, what a fun time. Ed has just come down with another cookie and some shorts. He is getting comfy.
Gonna miss some of the seniors. APR came out with a big game. Same with Dorian. He played well.
Do we still need to make changes? Yes. Do we get to go to a bowl game and maybe Fenway Park? I'm not going to El Paso. I've seen enough Breaking Bad to see what happens there.
My bourbon is delicious. You can't get any better Thanksgiving treats, pre-Christmas treats, than beating those sorry, stinking-ass Wahoos.
Let's make this thing better next year. Gotta be fun.
All right, thank you for the calls. That was a great set of calls.
Awesome.
I did love Hack saying he's a brand new man, no longer broken, just one UVA victory, and he's back, baby. Wants to go to Fenway Park for the bowl game. The Berlin's calling in saying, it's 11 whatever, and UVA still sucks. Love that. And there's a lot of pop love going on. That is the truth. Get Chiron on the bench because Pop's the new guy. What was your story of the game, and how do you agree with some of those sentiments?
My story of the game, obviously Pop Watson, right? However, it was the way that Virginia Tech handled the end of the first half, because that was as clinical and as perfect as you could have ended that half.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, this is what makes it so frustrating, Pete, because this isn't the first time this season that they've had an end to a half like that. The Boston College game was the best 2-minute drive I have ever seen from a Virginia Tech offense.
Hmm.
It was clinical. They were spreading the ball around. They were hurrying up to the line. There were no penalties. The offensive line played great receiver catches. Drones made great throws, ended in that beautiful rollout on the wheel route to Bashal Tootin. Awesome.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then they just screwed it up at Syracuse. They screwed it up at Duke. They didn't know how, like we were saying on this pod that Brent probably didn't know how to count.
Yeah.
And then they go into this game. Virginia gets the field goal. It's 10-3. And then you're like, all right, well, there's not that much time left in the half, only a couple minutes. Let's just get to half it up a touchdown and we'll go. No, Pop hits Lane on a beautiful deep ball, places it perfectly. One of my favorite plays of the season. And then UVA gets the ball. They do complete a 3rd and long. That sucks. But then next 3rd down, you get the pick by Jalen Jones doing a great job playing safety. Pass rush got home a couple of times on that drive as well. And then you're just completing passes. And then you get the penalty. It was an illegal hand to the face. You get 15 yards. It's a chip shot 30-yard field goal. There's 7 seconds left. Pete, you know how much time was left when Virginia Tech got the ball against Duke at the end of the half?
Yeah, 7
seconds. And you know what Brent Pry did? Immediately sent that field goal unit out there. Don't play any games. Backup quarterback, close game. Go up points. Get the points. Your team did a great job. Complementary football from the offense, from the defense, and maybe most importantly from the coaching staff.
Good observation, Sam. Now that deserves credit where credit is due because it went from 10-3 to 20-3 real fast
in a couple minutes. And then Virginia Tech scored on their first possession of the second half. So it went from 10-3 to 27-3 in about 6 minutes of game time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we have so rarely won the middle 8, as they say, or whatever, that the third quarter has been our arch nemesis most of the year. And so it was nice to get up and really not have to sweat that at all. Pop was the story, as you said, hit 2/3 of his passes, over 300 total yards and a couple touchdowns. And on Monday with Pat, we went into a long discussion of just, he looks like a natural quarterback. The way he gets through his progressions, the way he makes decisions quickly and just takes off. He moves really well. He moves like a very athletic dude. It's different than Kyron. Kyron is a tremendous scrambler, a tremendous runner. It's just totally different.
It is so natural. That's the best word for it. He looks so comfortable, so fluid. The way that he always keeps his eyes downfield while moving in the pocket, and he keeps the ball up ready to throw. It's not way out to the side of him. He doesn't tuck it too early. It looks so well coached. It looks so natural. It looks so fluid. He runs really well. Like, he doesn't take hits. He runs very, very direct, right? Like, if he's scrambling, he's like, all right, I know I got a 6-yard gain right here. I'm going to get to that 6 yards as fast as possible. And I'm a slider. I'm going to get out of bounds. We go to the next play. He just looks so comfortable as a quarterback.
Yeah. And he's the son of a coach, right?
Yep. His dad was his head coach in high school, I believe.
Seems to have the internal clock, the pocket presence, and awareness of where he is on the field, what he needs to do. And just a guy that's done it a lot. Like, he was Gatorade Player of the Year in Massachusetts. We need to take into account it was UVA, but the reactions that everyone's giving is because he flashed, he popped, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was really fun.
I mean, and it's also after the Duke game where he, put in a valiant effort. I think there were a few throws. I was like, look, he just dirtballed that thing. That was an open wide receiver and he missed the throw, missed it a couple of times. Or, man, he took a ton of sacks. He didn't change the protection. Like, he did not look ready in a lot of stances. He looked 100% totally prepared for this game.
Yeah.
And that is, like, surprising in the best way.
In his first start.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who hand up, I was like, look, it's not going to happen for Pop. He's too small. He hasn't made the field yet, and Tech's had offensive issues. Probably a guy who's going to transfer out.
They made him third string before the season.
Yeah. Boy, was I wrong. Pete.
Sometimes you just don't know what you have until you put them out there. And you mentioned it on Monday that Pry was surprised. Like he expressed that he was surprised in what Pop was able to do.
And I don't want people to take that totally the wrong way. I think he was surprised. He said, "Man, he looked a lot faster out there than he does in practice," and he kind of joked about, "Oh, he needs to run those sprints faster in practice because I see how fast he sprints here." And
it's hard to mimic.
You don't know, like you're right. You don't know until you get these guys in there, and that goes back to what I was saying about like, hey, get guys like Tyler Mason game time because you don't know. You don't know.
Tootin had a great game, 18 carries, 124 yards, 6.9 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. 17 total touchdowns in the year. We said that's tied for 5th all time. A perfect game and way to end his Hokie career. If he wants to play in the bowl game, I love him for it. If he doesn't, that's fine by me too, because he has earned a break playing through all of the injuries he's played through this year, and he has been so good in the maroon and orange uniform. So shout out to Tootin. That last run was just chef's kiss.
I said it last night on the stream. I think there's going to be a few more players that play in the bowl game than what people think. Whether Tootin is one of them or not, I would assume not. But I think there will be a few more players that play in the bowl game than what we think. But that's for another episode.
The one call that I thought was just funny. It was like a 3-second call, and the guy just goes, "APR is that dude." and he was, man. 3 sacks to finish with 16 on the year, tied for 2nd in the country. A tremendous season, first team All ACC. What a joy it's been to watch him rush the quarterback and go off in some of these games. Woodson had 9 tackles. He continues to ascend. 8 for Keller. Interceptions for Delane and Jones, as you talked about. 5 sacks as a team. I mean, the defense really did play very well. 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups. Musket completed 19 of 36 passes. Like, he was pretty terrible outside of his legs.
Yeah, I think there was what Tech is good at defensively. I think you saw their best of it. The issues for Virginia Tech defensively, I think you also saw those as well. Like, there were some times when the defensive lineman just ran straight upfield and there was no gap integrity, and that allowed Musket to like weave his way through. There was a couple of plays where the linebackers looked like they had cement feet all of a sudden and couldn't break down and make a tackle. There was a couple busted coverages there. I think, UVA had a wheel route that was wide open. Luckily, it was a bad throw and it didn't end up being a touchdown. But there was a couple of the issues that we've seen all year with the defense. However, you saw what the ceiling looks like on certain plays, like the natural pass rush you get with APR, how elite Delane and Strong were as corners, the improvement the safeties have made kind of in that center field position, playing the cover 6 and cover 2 that Virginia Tech likes to do on those long third downs. So a really good game from the defense. They stepped up when they needed to.
Yeah, so let's do our takeaways, man. And I kind of separated mine into like good and bad. So my good takeaway is that with as rough as the season was, and this kind of echoes what Billy said in the voicemail, it feels really good to be 6-6. We said it on Monday, and I'll say it again tonight. We're going to a bowl. We get more of the practices for the young players. We didn't lose to UVA. In the record books, it's another win over UVA. It's 6-6 and not 5-7. I didn't want to see the ugliness of what would have happened if we lost. Now, could that have meant that, oh, yeah, we're going to get the firings we want? Yes, I still think I'd take the win.
Yeah. Like there was no world in which losing was the best thing for this game.
No.
I think the best thing for this game is winning and still making the tough decisions. That's the best case scenario.
Right. Learn from your mistakes without having a huge one. You already had 4. I mean, that's the bad part of this, right? We were favored in 10 of 12 games and we won 6.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking to win all 10, but I am asking you to win 8, maybe 9.
Yeah. And I think you saw so many times this season, the ceiling for this team is higher than it has been since probably 2017. 2016 maybe, because that 2017 was
I'd say 2017. The defense was really good that year.
Yeah. So the ceiling is higher than it has been in a while. The floor is still, it's higher than it was the last 5 or 6 years. but the floor isn't high enough, right?
No.
Like you still see these moments and these spells of play where you're like, oh my God, this team hasn't improved at all. There's too many of those still.
The floor for this team should have been 7-5. Like that
Agreed.
should have
Agreed.
absolutely been the floor.
I would say 8-4.
Yeah.
Pete, I would say 8-4 would have been the floor for me because you look at some of these matchups and the way that Tech played for 2.5, 3 quarters in some of these games where they were the better team. Yeah. So just the underachievement on the whole for sure.
A lot has been made of the 1-12 for Pry in one-score games. It's 8 losses in a row in one-score games. If no staff changes are made, Sam, I put this out on my Twitter today with a poll. I said, would you be happy? Would you be fine? Would you be pissed off? Or would you be kind of done with VT for next year if they don't make any staff changes? 0% out of 1,000 votes said happy. 0%. So I think there was a couple of votes, but it was like 4 votes. So it's less than 1%. So it was 0% on Twitter. You can go look at the poll. It's on my Twitter page. 81%, Sam, would be pissed or done with football for next year. So, and listen, it's a Twitter poll. It's not the be all end all, but 1,000 votes is 1,000 votes. Like,
I think you're up to like 1,400, Pete. I don't know when last time you checked.
It's a lot of votes. 81% of people would be pissed or uninterested.
Yeah.
In next year.
And I mean, the level of underachievement for this season as a whole, like, let's be honest, is pretty big. I mean, you're talking 3 or 4 games under what a lot of people expected from Virginia Tech this year, and not Hokies, like non-Hokie media members expected 10 wins. Vegas expected 8, 8.5. Like people were hammering the Hokies for ACC title as well.
They made every national analyst look like a fool.
Yeah. I've ran my program power rankings weekly from the preseason all the way through. And preseason Virginia Tech was, top 20, 16, something like that. They finished the regular season 45th. And that is schedule adjusted, venue adjusted. It's very intense. It is 45th in the country. So they're pretty mediocre.
Did you see our SP Plus?
Oh, what is that at? I haven't seen that.
26.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that infuriating?
On a game by game basis, I think Virginia Tech was right there. But
so it's like a top 25 caliber team that just couldn't win in the end. Like that would dominate a game and then lose or whatever.
And that's the difference between what I do in mine and what Connolly does in his. Mine is wins loss base. You get 5 points for a win, -5 for a loss, and then we put on the EPA and the performance and adjustments.
His is predictive game to game. Yours is odds for the playoff. They are different.
Yes, and like to give you kind of a gauge of
Natty, I guess.
To give you an gauge of where Virginia Tech was, sandwiched between Nebraska, Boston College above them, and USC and Texas Tech below them. Yeah. So that's kind of the sandwich that they were in this year. It's just not good enough at Virginia Tech to be a mediocre football program.
If they didn't make a staff change too, Sam, I hear the argument of like, don't just change. And I'm not saying, when I say staff change, I don't mean like the whole staff. I'm saying like a new coordinator or 2, a new coach here, a new coach here, like some changes. And I understand the idea of don't change for change's sake. We're changing for a good reason. We've gone 6-6 back-to-back years. And this year we were favored to win 10 games and we won 6. It was an underachievement by every metric. SP Plus, a team that finishes 26 in SP Plus, should not be 500. They just shouldn't be. And if we don't make a staff change, I got news for you. We're going 6-6 again. At best, the schedule's not easy next year.
No, the schedule's more difficult. I will caveat. We thought this schedule was going to be real easy. We ended up, of the 6 losses that Virginia Tech played, 6 losses, right? Clemson was a 9-win team. Miami was a 10-win team. Duke was a 9-win team. Syracuse a 9-win team. Who else am I losing?
You're missing Rutgers.
Rutgers was a bowl team. Vanderbilt's a bowl team.
Yeah. No, there's not like a bad team among them. Maybe Rutgers, but that game happened at home. The Vandy game, we were 2 touchdown favorites. And yes, Vandy surprised a lot of people, but they also lost to Georgia State. And the reason that Syracuse has 9 wins and Duke has 9 wins, Sam, is because they beat us. We should have had the Syracuse win, and then Syracuse isn't a 9-win team. Like, I understand Syracuse was decent this year, and we had to play them on the road with their backup quarterback. We were up 21-3, or was it 28-3 or 21-3? 21-3. So you can't do the same thing again and expect different results. It's the old saying, like that's the definition of insanity, right?
Yep.
And we've given both of these coordinators run for 3 years. If you want to keep one of them because you think he's slightly better than the other, fine. But we need some veteran leadership. We need some film study. We may need better strength and conditioning. We need a bunch of different game management, some help. We need some help. Because I'm worried that this one score thing, I'm not even worried. It's a systemic problem. 1 in 12 is not a potential problem. That's a real tangible problem that you cannot just fix by making no changes.
I'd 100% agree. I would also say, look at the game that Tech didn't lose by 1 score this year. The only one, that 10-point, which is real close to a 1 score, is a 10-point loss against Clemson at home. And that is a game where Tech ran the ball 9 times against a team that can't stop the run.
And 0 times with a healthy running back.
Yes. And so this is like, it's not only the 1-score games. If it was just the 1-score games, I think it's as easy as bring in a veteran guy who can be your clock guy on the sidelines. That's it. Boom, done. The thing is, it's not just that.
Because it's more than
you
that.
in 1-score games. And the reason you're in 1-score games is because half of the games of the season, Virginia Tech game plans really well. The other half, they look like they've never turned on the film. And that's what creates 6-6, because half the games they dominate and the other half, they have no idea what they're doing.
It's not just the game plans either, because the Clemson game plan is a good one to point to. The Vandy game plan is a good one to point to. It's not being ready to play just from a mindset for Vanderbilt, for Rutgers. In the beginning of some of these games, the Marshall game, where we're just not bringing the juice for a half of football. That's not acceptable. Like, it was like 3/4 of the Rutgers game. Yeah. And that's a problem of prep that doesn't have really almost anything to do with X's and O's. It's just like, get them ready to play, man. They're not ready. They're not focused.
Do you think it is like a lot of people have said, oh, they haven't made the change now, they're not making it. Like, this is something that they would have done early this week. I would push back on that because of early signing day is very new to college football. And we just talked about how good the class was for Virginia Tech. You're not going to risk those guys because you want to make a change a week earlier or 2 weeks earlier. There's a lot of time left in this coaching carousel, and it's getting longer and longer every year. So I would not say because they haven't made changes right now that they're not going to make changes.
Logically, I can't see them not making a change. Like, it would defy logic to not make a change. And I agree completely. I did not expect to see one before signing day. So that is not worrying me right now. Come January, I'll be a little worried. I would.
Yeah, I think you're looking at if we don't see something week after the bowl game, so January probably, then that tells you what you need to know.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the bowl projections and let's get out of here. I just got a couple. The big note was that McMurphy had us in the Mayo Bowl versus Minnesota. That would be kind of fun.
That'd be fun. I'll take it.
Because it's in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Lots of Hokies can go. Minnesota's not a bad team. Kind of a fun matchup. Don't play them normally, so that's cool. And Colby had this on 247. He said the Mayo Bowl date would be the most advantageous for the staff and for the transfer portal.
Nice. When is the Mayo Bowl? What day is that?
It's late. I think it's like the 28th or something.
I'm Googling, researching. This is when we need a little producer that we can just snap at and be like, "Hey, when's the Mayo Bowl?" And he Googles it real quick.
I don't know how I didn't write it down. It's January 3rd.
January 3rd. Hey, yeah, that'd be great. Let's do it. I'm down. What day of the week is that?
Get your calendar out, Sam.
It's a Friday. Dude, I'm down. Let's go. I'm down. I'll
yeah,
go
7:30 p.m. Friday, January 3rd.
It'll
be cold as ice, but it'll be fun.
Well, it's a lot warmer than Fenway.
That's
or
true.
Yankee Stadium. Or God forbid, Annapolis, Maryland.
Fenway is the other one that's been put out there by CBS against Tulane. On 247, it was Fenway versus Tulane. On CBS, it was Fenway versus ECU. I mentioned that they had us against WVU down in Dallas. But which one? Who had that? I can't remember what service put that out, but that's another one I saw.
Yeah, but WVU has already accepted their bowl bid, so they will be.
Oh, where are they going?
Oh shoot! Now you're gonna have to make me Google something again, Pete. I even tweeted something out about it. Like that's two. They're playing Memphis, and they are playing them in the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl.
Frisco, Texas. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we won't know until we need to figure out what happens with Clemson.
Mayo Bowl, Minnesota is my
that's what
projection.
we want.
That's the 2D projection. Official.
That's the projection. That means you think Clemson's probably winning this weekend.
I don't think they're winning this weekend, but I'll hedge my bet.
I just feel like in order for us to get the Mayo Bowl, we need two teams to be taken up by the playoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to get downgraded a bowl. So we're rooting for. I mean, I don't care. You like SMU in that game -2.5?
Yeah, I think the fact that Clemson hasn't shown an ability to stop a running game. They've really struggled this year on that.
They got a good running back.
And offensively, I don't think they are the team that the stats say they are. I think they found a few things schematically that worked against some bad defenses early in the year, against UVA, against App State, and they kind of just ran up the score a little bit. So I think their offense is not as good as they statistically look.
I also don't think SMU's played very good defenses this year. And Clemson's defense held South Carolina in check big time. And South Carolina had been putting up points.
Yep. These are two teams that have played pretty well this season and pretty evenly. When I do my rankings for adjusted expected points added per play, and again, that adjusts for venue and adjusts for opponent, SMU is 16th and Clemson is 19th. So two pretty evenly matched teams when you look at it on a play-by-play basis.
Yeah. I want to see SMU play a really good team. I know they played Louisville and Louisville beat Clemson, but I got to say, even in the loss, I felt Clemson looked one of the best they've looked all year against South Carolina.
Yeah, and that's a tough matchup for them because, again, it's a running quarterback. It's a running game. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think something else to keep in mind with this matchup as well is people have made a lot about the travel to and from. SMU has looked really good when they played at Louisville. That was their big win. They looked really good at Virginia. They've gone to this side of this coast a lot and done well this year. So I don't think that will be a big issue for SMU.
Not as much traveling though. They had a lot of.
They had a lot better than Cal did. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. They even got to play Cal at home and beat them pretty good without Mendoza. But all right, that's going to do it for the show, man. We covered a lot: signing day, portal, staff, UVA. You got it all. But that closes the book on the regular season. Sam and I are going to be back for College Football Monday night at 8 p.m. That may be our only episode next week. We are trying to get a guest or two and obviously do a bowl preview and everything else once we know that stuff. But stay tuned to College Football Monday for our updates. The playoff is only like 2 weeks away too.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. I'm so excited.
Coming up next weekend, in addition to the championship games. And then the playoff starts the very next weekend on the weekend of the 20th. So it's gonna be great. We're gonna get so much more meaningful football in the next couple weeks.
Can't wait.
All right, man. Make sure y'all are subscribed. Sons of Saturday feed on YouTube. Sons of Saturday feed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Too Deep on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, go Hokies.